ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So we see in the last verse it was described how after all these devatas along with Lord Brahma, they approached Kailasha and they are seeing that under a banyan tree, huge banyan tree, Lord Shiva is seated along with many other great sages, including Narada. It was described how Lord Shiva is seated, what is his disposition. Like in the last verse it was described, he was seated on a straw mattress and speaking to all present, including the great sage Narada, to whom he specifically spoke about the absolute truth. So that means Lord Shiva, he is seated under the tree. He is surrounded by all these great sages, including Narada. And what is the subject matter which he is speaking about? So he is speaking about Brahma Sanatanam, absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada in the purport was mentioning something very important. Prabhupada says, in this verse, it is specifically mentioned, he was speaking to great sage Narada, a celebrated devotee. Narada was asking Lord Shiva about devotional service. See, these are all very important. Prabhupada explains this context even with respect to Bhagavad Gita. That what is the main subject matter which is discussed in Bhagavad Gita? So Prabhupada explains with a similar logic as it is explained here. Prabhupada says, when two businessmen meet each other, their most important subject matter of discussion will be business, because they are businessmen. When two politicians meet each other, The most important subject matter they will be talking will be about politics. Just like, let us say, Prime Minister goes to the house of President or to the office of President. So the most important subject matter they will be discussing will be some political matter about the country. In the course of meeting, they may discuss some other subject matter also. But that is not the main important subject matter of their discussion. Suppose in the middle, if the Prime Minister asks, "Oh, your curtain is very nice." Now that is not the most important subject matter which they had come to discuss. The most important subject matter they came to discuss was politics. Similarly, when two businessmen meet, they will discuss business. So Prabhupada explains very logically, Bhagwan and Bhakta, when there is a discussion between Bhagwan, Krishna, and Arjuna, Krishna is telling, Bhaktosi, Sakhacha iti. Correct? So when there is a discussion between Bhagwan and Bhakta, the subject matter will be bhakti. Most important subject matter will be bhakti. All other subject matter like karma, jnana, they are not the crux of Bhagavad Gita. They are meant gradually to bring the living entity to the point of bhakti. This is important. So similarly, as Prabhupada is explaining, when there is a discussion specifically mentioned, there are many other great sages present, there is no doubt. And Lord Shiva may be discussing about many other subject matters also. But specifically it is mentioned that Lord Shiva is discussing with Narada. And Prabhupada is explaining this very nicely in the purport. In this verse, it is specifically mentioned he was speaking to great sage Narada, a celebrated devotee. So Lord Shiva is speaking specifically to Narada. So what is the subject matter? That also Prabhupada is explaining. Narada was asking Lord Shiva about devotional service, and Shiva, being the topmost Vaishnava, was instructing him. So, two devotees are discussing. It is not that there is no doubt that Lord Shiva is greatest of the mystics also. But the discussion is not between some yogi, an ordinary yogi, and Lord Shiva. The discussion is between Narada, a celebrated devotee, and topmost devotee. Vaishnavanam yatha shambhu. So, Narada is placing inquiries, questions about devotional service. And Lord Shiva, he is answering, describing about devotional service. So, Prabhupada further says, in other words, Lord Shiva and Narada were discussing the knowledge of the Vedas. But then somebody may say, no, just now you said they were discussing devotional service, now you are telling they were discussing knowledge of the Veda. Because actually, Vedescha sarve ahameva vedya. If somebody reads Vedic literature and does not come to the conclusion that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his reading of the Vedas is useless. It's like there is a verse where it says, if someone by practicing yoga does not understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then there is no value of tapasya for him. Somebody is performing austerities, and after performing great austerities, he does not understand Lord Hari, tapasa tatha kim. What is the value of tapasya for him? Similarly, if somebody understands Lord Hari, then there is no value for tapasya for him. He doesn't require to do varieties of tapasya. And then further it says, someone who sees antar bahir, inside and outside Lord Hari, tapsa tatha kim. For him also there is no value of tapasya, because tapasya is meant to bring a living entity to the point where he can surrender to the Lord. He can worship the Lord. If somebody is worshipping the Lord, he does not require to perform all these austerities. Similarly, the essence of Vedic literature is devotional service. That is why Srimad Bhagavatam was, when Veda Vyasa had written all the Vedic literature, he was not satisfied. So if Veda Vyasa himself is not satisfied, how the readers of the Vedas will be satisfied? That is why specifically he wrote about devotional service. Because that is what he has missed out. It's only indirectly he had mentioned about the Supreme Lord and devotional service. But that cannot please the living entity at all. So Narada then instructed Vedavyasa to write Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srimad Bhagavatam was written in the maturity of Vedavyasa as the ripened fruit of the Vedic tree. See? All the Vedic literatures, they are called as Kalpataru, Nigamaha Kalpatarur, and Srimad Bhagavatam is Galitam Phalam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit of that Vedic tree. So, that means devotional service is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. So when it is said that Lord Shiva and Narada were discussing Vedic knowledge, it should be understood they were discussing devotional service. When Krishna and Arjuna are discussing yoga, it should be understood they were discussing primarily bhakti yoga. Because all other yogas are meant to come to the point of bhakti. They are not independent of bhakti. Karma yoga, jnana yoga are not independent of bhakti. Individually, they cannot take you to perfection. Either Ashtanga yoga, which is mentioned here, Lord Shiva is sitting in Virasana. But all these yogas, they cannot take one to perfection. They all require to culminate in bhakti, and that can give perfection. They are only stepping stone to bring the living entity to the point of devotional service. So, the subject matter which is being discussed when Lord Shiva is sitting and is surrounded and he is specifically speaking to Narada, is nothing but devotional service. Prabhupada is pointing out that Lord Shiva is sitting with Tarka Mudra. Tarka Mudra is a mudra which signifies that he is making a point, a very important point to impress the audience about. Just like Krishna may speak so many different items in Bhagavad Gita, but then Krishna is also saying that there is gradation in the knowledge which Krishna is giving. So when Krishna is giving the knowledge of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna is saying it is Rajavidya. That means all other Vidyas are not Rajavidya. Isn't it? The king is one, subjects are many. So, Krishna has described Ashtanga Yoga, Krishna has described Jnana Yoga, Krishna has described Karma Yoga. Isn't it? But when it comes to devotional service, Krishna is impressing upon the audience, impressing upon Arjuna that this is the topmost. Rajavidya, Rajguhyam. It is the secret of all secret. Pavitram, Uttamam. It is the purest knowledge. Uttamam means it is topmost knowledge. And then Krishna also says, Pratyaksha Avagamam Dharmam. It is not theoretical alone. It is practical understanding. One practices it. You see. So, this sitting posture of Lord Shiva with Tarka Mudra is actually signifying that he is trying to impress upon the audience about the importance of devotional service. And that he is doing through talking to Narada. Just like Krishna is talking to Arjuna in order to benefit all other living entities. Arjuna is taking a position of a student as if in ignorance and placing varieties of inquiries before Lord Krishna. And Krishna is answering all these different inquiries by Arjuna. Similarly, we find in Srimad Bhagavatam, Shaunak Adi Rishis, they are inquiring from Suta Goswami. So, and when Suta Goswami hears the inquiries, he says that these inquiries are for Lokahitam. It is for the benefit of all living entities, everyone in this universe. Why? Because these inquiries are about the supreme absolute truth. When we inquire in this material world, Prabhupada says actually inquiry is inherent in all living entities. Everyone inquires. Morning when you get up, you will find so many birds are chirping. They're inquiring. Prabhupada says they're inquiring. Where to go, where to find food, all these things. Right in the morning, so many businessmen you will find they'll be traveling, they'll be inquiring stock market, exchange, What is the rate today? What is the petrol prices today? So many inquiries are going on in the world, isn't it? But these inquiries are not significant inquiries, because these inquiries are present even in the animal life. Whereas the inquiries about absolute truth, it is for the ultimate benefit of every living entity. The answer to such inquiry is for the benefit of all living entities, specifically for humans. So, Lord Shiva, Prabhupada is saying, this is symbolic representation. Lord Shiva symbolically is sitting like this in Tarka Mudra. Why? Because he wants to impress upon the audience about the importance of the subject matter he is talking to Narada. So, this is the importance of this, Prabhupada is saying. So, devotional service to the Lord, as it is mentioned in all Vedic literatures, just like in today's conversation also we were reading, that Bhagavatam is such a literature wherein these other kinds of subordinate understanding, indirect understanding of God, all these things are removed from Srimad Bhagavatam because they only create confusion. Just like practically after reading Vedic literatures, how many people are there who actually surrender to God, who become devotees? They take Ashtanga Yoga, everything from Vedic literatures only. Just like people will read Bhagavad Gita, they will practice Ashtanga Yoga, but they will not understand that the goal of Ashtanga Yoga is to meditate upon the Supreme Personality of God. Prabhupada is talking about that in today's purport. Prabhupada is saying this, Lord Shiva is sitting in Virasana. Similarly, there are other asanas. There is Padmasana, when both the legs are crossed with each other in the form of a lotus, that is called Padmasana. There is Siddhasana, Prabhupada says. So people will be thinking Siddhasana means, okay, I will attain Siddhi just by this asana. Isn't it? People will give so many different kinds of interpretation. They will be thinking, if I sit in Padmasana, I was reading somewhere, that I am like a lotus. Just by sitting like a lotus, I am above all material conception of life. How it is possible? Just by sitting in Padmasana. It is just a preliminary anga, isn't it? Practically nobody follows the other angas of Ashtanga. And Prabhupada says Ashtanga Yoga is meant for people who are very much in bodily consciousness of life, very attached to the body. For them it is. It is not for the person who is actually detached from bodily conception of life. For them to gradually become detached, these different bodily exercises are prescribed. Now we should be very clear about what these asanas are meant for. Just like we can see here, Lord Shiva, there are certain asanas by which the different bodily disturbances can be removed. And one can sit for a long time. One can sit for a long time without different disturbances in the body, controlling the different airs, controlling the outgoing, ingoing air, all these things. It will help in controlling the senses and the mind. See? But it has to be preceded with yama, niyama. One has to follow so many rules and regulations. That nobody wants to care about. What is yama, what is niyama, what are the rules and regulations, what are the do's, what are the don'ts. Yeah, Prabhupada explained there are so many do's are there, so many don'ts are there that they don't want to understand. Simply they will sit in some asana and they will be thinking that this is some spiritual practice, isn't it? So these asanas, actually they are meant to assist us in meditating on the Supreme Lord. By controlling the mind, by controlling the bodily disturbances, by controlling the senses, just like pratyahara, dharana. These are all meant for that the senses should not be just let loose to the sense objects. One has to practice control of the senses. And the most important part of Ashtanga Yoga and all other yoga is to control the mind. That nobody is doing. So people are practicing pranayama, people are practicing asanas, and they're all advertising that it is all meant for bodily health. That is not the goal, that is not the ultimate goal. These are all different byproducts of Ashtanga Yoga. Good health is a byproduct of Ashtanga Yoga and Pranayama. These are not the goals that one should practice these for getting good health. That is not the goal. So, Lord Shiva wants to impress upon the audience, because there are many people sitting, many different sages are sitting. But specifically he is speaking to Narada, and he is speaking in a Tarka Mudra because he wants to impress upon the audience the importance of devotional service. This is very important. Another significant point which we can understand is that all these great personalities like Lord Shiva or Narada, they are para dukkha dukhi. Vaishnava is considered to be para dukkha dukhi. Just like even for Prahlad Maharaj, if we see, Prahlad Maharaj is telling Lord Narsimha that, my dear Lord, for myself I have no problem at all. For myself I have no problem. You send me to Naraka, you send me to Swarga. Just like it is said in Bhagavatam, Swarga api narakopi tulya darshana. For a devotee, there is no such difference between Naraka and Swarga. Because a devotee has learned how to be Krishna conscious in every circumstances. It's a great art. But when he is saying, Prahlad Maharaj, that I have no problem, I have no anxiety whatsoever, all living entities, they are constantly in anxiety. Sada samudvigna dhyam. But I have no anxiety. But still, he says, I have one anxiety. He says, Soche tatho vimukha chetasam. I also have anxiety. I am thinking about those living entities who are rotting in this material world. They have created a humbug society, huge endeavor only for Maya Sukha. Not Brahma Sukha, Maya Sukha. You see? So I am worried about them. And for that, he's saying, my dear Lord, I want to bring all these living entities to surrender to your lotus feet. So let me remain. I do not even want to come back to the spiritual world. Let me remain in this material world to canvas on your behalf and bring all these living entities. So this is called Para Dukkha Dukkhi. All these great sages in Naimisharanya, they are discussing for such a long time the subject matter of Bhagavatam because they want to benefit all the living entities. Isn't it? Arjuna is placing different inquiries to Krishna. Narada is placing inquiries to Lord Shiva. Not that Narada is bereft of knowledge, isn't it? He is inquiring, and Lord Shiva, as an authority on devotional service, he is answering. And another significant point which Prabhupada is telling is difference between Yogeshwara and Yogishwara. Lord Shiva, he is the greatest of the yogis. No one can surpass him in yoga practice. So if no one can surpass him, he is showing with his own example what is his consciousness, what is the subject matter he is discussing. He is discussing about devotional service. He is meditating on the Supreme Lord. And he wants to impress upon the audience with his Tarka Mudra the importance of devotional service. And Yogeshwara means master of all opulences, just like in Bhagavad Gita, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partha Dhanurdhara. Correct? It is. Krishna is Yogeshwara. He is the master of all yogis. He is the master of all yogic perfections. He is the master of all yogic mystic powers. That is Krishna. And no one can surpass the practice of yoga to Lord Shiva. So, that is also Prabhupada clarifying that the greatest of the yogi is Lord Shiva, and we understand that even though he is the greatest of the yogi, what is he? Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. He is the greatest of the Vaishnava because the culmination of all yogas is in devotional service to the Lord. Otherwise, just like it is said in Bhagavatam, all other different processes without devotional service, they are like decoration of a dead body. Only foolish people will be attracted. Mandanam lokaranjanam bhagavat bhakti hinasya. Whether you do tapasya, you read so many Vedic literature, you organize so many festivals, but if it is bhagavat bhakti hinasya, if you remove devotional service from them, it is mandalam lokaranjanam. It is a decoration of a dead body. That's all. So, this is the significance which Lord Shiva wants to present, that he may be the greatest of the yogi, but what is the final understanding of the greatest of the yogi should be understood. It is devotional service to the Lord. That is why we find even in Bhagavad Gita at the end of 6th chapter, even after describing Ashtanga Yoga, Krishna is saying, Yoginam api sarvesham madagatantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yumam same yukta tamomata. One who is engaged, bhajate means one who is engaged in devotional service to the Lord. He is most intimately connected with the Supreme Lord. Arjuna asked, which yogi is better? Krishna is answering that actually one who is connected to the Lord in devotional service is the best of all. So we'll stop with this Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Vishnu Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.